All right, here with the Italian sports guys, Bada-Boom!
Bada-Bing!
And in this segment, we're going to take a look ahead to the college football playoffs. Kyle, make our predictions for 2019 season.
I'm ready.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with give me one team on your end? Let's go with the obvious.
All right. First guy that's ever tried to look at my paper. I'm kind of flattered. Also curious.
Yeah.
Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, you're going to give me your thoughts on Alabama.
I think you have, of course, a fully loaded cupboard yet again. They don't rebuild, they reload. One of the problems I thought they had at the end of last year was a lot of people thought some of the former coaching staff had maybe checked out a little bit. Maybe they were great recruiters, not so much great game day X's and O's coaches. Yeah. So Nick Saban kind of shifted back to where he wants to get guys who can teach the game, teach the scheme, really great coaches.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you give up a little bit in recruiting. Don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, time will tell. But I can tell you this. Right now, the cupboard's fully loaded, and they seem to have upgraded their coaching staff a little bit.
Yeah.
The rest of college football, look out. At least the rest of the SEC. So with Tua Tagovailoa coming back, I know they lost Dylan Moses on defense. Okay, but again, it's a situation where if anybody has the roster to overcome that, it would be Alabama. I'm a big Najee Harris fan. Their running back wears number 22. He's fantastic. Best receiving core in the country coming back. Some think Judy, whatever his name is a Jerry Judy is a something Judy. Judy is a Heisman contender, dark horse, and Tua Tagovailoa along with Trevor Lawrence, the two front runners. So.
Judy in disguise, right?
That's it.
Jerry Judy. There you go. A common theme here. I think when in doubt, go with the guys with experience at the quarterback position. I think you mentioned Tua, who's played in the postseason a couple of times. You look also again. We talked about it a little bit before. The SEC doesn't seem to be quite as deep down from top to bottom. Again, we still think it's going to be strong at the top with some good teams like LSU and Auburn look good against Oregon, but. The schedule doesn't look that intimidating for an SEC West. You look at they get LSU at home, so that's an advantage for Alabama as well. They'll go on the road to play Auburn, but I like Alabama too. I'll give a second. I'm going to go with another obvious pick. I'll go with the Clemson Tigers. Talent-wise, they looked so superior last year in that national championship game. Trevor Lawrence, it's not really a stretch to say this kid may be one of the best quarterback prospects since maybe Andrew Luck in terms of this kind of the standard, the prototype.
Size, the speed, the arm strength,
prototype,
accuracy, everything.
Traditional type of a quarterback. Interesting about this kid too. When they played top 30 defenses, his stats actually went up, shot through the roof. So it tells you this guy that's a gamer who can really ball when the chips are down. I like the continuity. They lose some guys in the front seven. Had a lot of guys that went in the draft last year, of course. But I think that, again, they have had some good drafts, so I think there's no problem for those guys to reload.
Travis Etienne from right up the road in Jennings, Louisiana, is a Heisman contender behind Trevor Lawrence as well. Two of them. John Ross, second-year receiver. He's a freshman out of the Alabama area. Had a tremendous season last year. Was dynamite in the national championship game. Yeah. Another case where they're kind of reloading more than they're rebuilding as well. It'll come down if they can really handle the big boys in the trenches, come playoff time. But they're going to go through their conference probably unscathed. I don't know what tough games they have on their schedule outside of A&M, and maybe a Miami team that seems to have some athletes that can give them a run. Florida State, who many would think would be the team to challenge in that conference, is officially down. The Willie Taggart experiment is not working out as they had hoped.
Yeah.
So they just gave up a multiple touchdown lead at home and lost to Boise State last weekend. So I think that puts Clemson's road to at least the playoffs much easier. And you don't have as much attrition. You don't lose as many people to injuries and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I did look at their schedule today. I think they've got A&M this week, of course, but they get them at home. I don't think
17.5
I don't think that's going to be much of a test for them. You go on the road to Syracuse and to Louisville, probably their two toughest games. So again, I don't think that's a big stumbling block for Clemson. A pretty clean road through that ACC.
Yeah, they're going to score 60 points against Louisville. So
give me your third team for the college playoffs.
Well, Clemson's my second as well.
Right.
Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh, any other thoughts on Clemson then?
No, the Oklahoma Sooners. Still not sold on their defense, but again, in the Big 12, all they have to do is beat Texas once out of the two times they play. Whoever wins that Oklahoma-Texas game, assuming that those two get to that conference championship, Oklahoma wins that game, I think they're going to go even if they lose to Texas during the regular season. Yeah. You saw their offense the other night under Jalen Hurts. My goodness, I mean, he's not the thrower, that Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray was. He's just not. But he's a hoss when he starts running the ball. Those other guys were small, quick, got out of the way, ran out of bounds. He can eat up chunks of yardage, this guy. He's big. He's a big kid, and he's a lot better at throwing the ball after spending a year under Dan Enos as a quarterback's coach at Alabama. So he's improved in that area, too. Their defense has got to step up. They have a new defensive coordinator, guy over from, I believe, Washington State, Alex Grinch. And they're going to be better on defense, I think. They got to get a lot better.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be better, and that'll be just enough to get them into the playoff.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I was torn between Texas and Oklahoma. I think these two teams are largely the class of that conference, obviously.
Right.
I think there's a pretty big spread between these two and the next level. You mentioned both of these teams, the schedule not really too difficult. I think they both got Iowa State, who really struggled.
Texas has the LSU game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So in terms of in the conference, they had Iowa State, who really struggled, and even though they're ranked,
triple overtime against Northern
triple
Iowa.
overtime to win as a ranked team in that game. So not terribly impressive. Their most toughest game is playing each other this season, of course.
Sure.
But that's really what put me in Oklahoma's camp, is that Texas has to play LSU, and I don't think they're going to win that game. So I think it makes the road to getting to the playoff a little bit easier for Oklahoma, not having that extra tough game on their schedule. Again, we talked about quarterback experience. I like Jalen Hurts. He looked good the first week, albeit against lesser competition. And, when you talk to football people who talk about this coach at Oklahoma, people who watch a lot of football breakdown film, they say he's one of the sharpest minds they've ever seen in football.
He's very young still.
In football, period.
Don't let the receding hairline fool you.
That's right.
That's young.
In football, period. Some of the wrinkles that he throws into these offenses with a lot of motion, even things that are, the NFL level guys are starting to pick up on in copycats at this point.
Look at what he did in the football playoff last year, trailing Alabama considerably at the half, had the wherewithal to make the adjustments at halftime, came out and made a game of it in the second half. If Texas loses to LSU, they're going to have to beat Oklahoma twice.
Yeah.
That's the hard part for Texas. Whereas if they split those games and Oklahoma doesn't loses their one game to Texas early on, they'll probably get another shot at them like they did last year. They win that game, and I think they're in.
Yeah.
So it's a one-loss Big 12 team. The SEC with the championship game and the divisions, the way they're set up, kind of cancel each other out. So
yeah. I'll tee it up for you for the fourth team, Kyle. We both have the top three the same. Here's some teams out there that I saw some of the other pundits pick out, and it's across the board. You got some people like Notre Dame again coming back this year under a little bit of a consistency with the head coach after making it to the playoff last year
and getting hosed.
Yeah. I'm hearing some noise for USC. That's kind of a flyer there.
USC.
Yeah,
JT Daniels out for the year.
That's kind of
you could have scratched him before.
Yeah,
JT Daniels.
I don't buy that
shot.
Georgia, again, a lot of people think there's a possibility two teams from the SEC could go Alabama, Georgia. Of course, they don't seem to have as tough a competition on their side typically. Michigan, if they could overtake Ohio State again, I'm not sure that I trust them yet until I see it happen, right? It's like keep trying to...
Unless they've got a whole new bevy of considerable transfers athletically.
Right, even if...
watch Ohio State run away from them in that game last year.
Even if they've made up some ground, the difference just seemed to be so pronounced last year.
Cut it down to 4 touchdowns.
That's right, yeah. Michigan State has a good defense. Again, we'll see. Oregon, after that opening loss to Auburn, doesn't look like they have much of a shot. I've heard some noise for Washington. So with that set up, Kyle, who's your number 4?
I went with this pick, Craig, strictly looking at the schedules and everything else. Ohio State, I don't think they have a tough game on their schedule.
Yeah.
And that's not because they're so great. They are good.
Yeah.
But it's because nobody else is going to challenge them. And look, I thought Michigan would give them a good ball game last year, and you started to see the difference in talent.
Yeah.
No matter who your coach is, whatever, players make plays.
Yeah.
And I watched Ohio State pull away from them more ways, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah.
Because they don't play anyone at all, I think Ohio State's got a very easy path. So I think Ohio State is a team that can probably sneak in. I have Notre Dame as a possibility because even though Notre Dame plays named teams like USC, Stanford, and whatnot, those teams are down.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I think Notre Dame is good enough to win all their games maybe this year.
Yeah, they got Georgia. That might be the stumbling block.
You know what? And looking at that would be the one big upset they have to pull. And I don't think they will, so that'll probably cancel them out. So
yeah, I mean, typically they play. You're right. They play a very tough schedule typically, but you mentioned they get Michigan, USC, and Stanford. Again,
They're better athletes than Michigan.
That's right. At this point in time, it's hard to see any of those teams. Again, it could be competitive. You don't know, but I don't see that as the more formidable schedule we've seen for Notre Dame in the past.
Right.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a fly here on the 4 team. I'm gonna go Pac-10 with the team Utah. I know
the Utes.
The Utes. Two Utes.
You're taking the 2 Utes.
The 2 Utes. Again, not a horrible schedule here out in the Pac-10. They get Washington State, number 22. They get them at home. They go on the road to play Washington, a team they played tough in a defensive battle last year. I like the athletes they have on the back end, linebackers and defensive backs here in the skilled positions offensively, so I'm hearing some good things. Again, I don't think it's going to be terribly tough to get through that gauntlet, so to speak, as some other conferences are. They play in the South in the Pac-10, which has a down US.
Pac-12.
That's right. We got USC, UCLA, and Arizona State. Again, nobody intimidates me too much based on what we're seing.
You can't intimidate anybody.
That's right. And so I'm gonna go with Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Utah.
I tell you why I don't think the very intriguing pick on Utah, but I'll tell you why I don't think what would help Utah is everyone having one loss and these guys and Utah running the table. The Utes got to run the table.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know how many quality wins you can build up in that conference. If you lose one game, you're done.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. I don't think that they'll get in because I just don't think they'll have enough wins over impressive teams because that conference doesn't have enough impressive teams right now.
Yeah, we'll see.
You know, you're playing with USC without JT Daniels. Remember that. So,
there's
a shot. Look,
because
they're down and because Utah's ranked high and the conference is down and because Utah's ranked high enough, those 2 games you mentioned, Washington
right.
State, that's kind of it.
Yeah, but you know, if you run the table and you get a couple wins against top 25 teams, now who knows where those teams will be ranked when those games come around later in the season, but it might be enough to get them over the top.
Right.
All right, how do you see these? So you got your 4 teams. How do you see those teams playing out in terms of the seeds, and what are your predictions?
I see Clemson housing Ohio State again in the playoff by triple digits, by 2 to 3 touchdowns minimum, possibly more. I think Clemson's that good. Yeah. And again, Ohio State's got a great tradition, great name, so they're gonna. If they run the table, and again, I don't see anybody that can beat them on their schedule. Right. And Ohio State's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not. I just don't see anybody in that conference that can play their style of football, which is an SEC brand of ball. A lot of speed, linebackers, and defensive linemen that can really move. Yeah. But I think when they play against Clemson, different ball game. I think it's a wipeout. Yeah. They're still questionable defensively. The Buckeyes are, and Clemson is not questionably offensively. I think their offense is proven. I think they'll just score buckets of points against them. Yeah. And then Bama against Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts against his old team, upset special. Yeah. I do. I think in that game, I think Oklahoma's going to score enough points. I think the defense will be decent enough. And I have Oklahoma upsetting Alabama. I have Clemson and OU in the final. Clemson wins it, going away. And I have Clemson repeating as a national champ. This is not an easy pick for me here. I'm not saying, lock it up, I think it's...
Especially considering who you live with here.
Well, yeah. Well, look, hey, I'll put her in the playoffs, all right?
There you
go. So I think it's... it's all projection right here.
We got a Sooner fan in the house.
I'm married to an Oklahoma alum, but I also think some possibilities to get in if the numbers work out. Teams on the outside looking in, and I'm talking fogging up the window, staring to get in. Yeah. LSU, Georgia, and as I mentioned, Notre Dame. For LSU to get in, they have to have Bama, have to beat Bama, which I don't think they'll do. So you hope that Bama loses twice, which is very difficult. Somehow, if you have that one loss and you're ranked high enough in the conference championship games, and this team beats that team, those things can work out. But you're asking me the other top teams in the country. I'm going to tell you, Georgia Bulldogs, LSU Tigers. Yeah. Are right up in there with the best of them. So
you have a prediction for the score of that Clemson over Oklahoma game?
I'm going to call that one 44-21 Clemson over Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
40. You know what? No, I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to call it 48-35.
48-35. So quite a shootout, but still a pretty comfortable win for Clemson.
Yeah, a team with a decent defensive team against a team with a little less than average defense. But both teams' offenses light it up.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to go, let's go through the numbers. I'm going to say Clemson will go into 1 seed and knock off the 2 Utes, both of them. And I think it's going to be a pretty handy win for them, too, a pretty dominating win. Right. I would say maybe 3 touchdowns. I think Alabama, Oklahoma, I do like Alabama once again to get through. So I'll look for a rematch again. And I see this one playing out just like it played out before. I think Clemson beats Alabama. I think it may be a little bit closer this time. I'm going to go this time Clemson over Alabama. I'll say Give me a 38-27 win.
All right.
Over the Crimson Tide. Okay.
Okay. One tough one for Alabama. They have to go to Kyle Field to play Texas A&M this year. And again, Texas A&M is going in as a 17.5-point underdog. They didn't look impressive offensively. Kellen Mond was 9 of 25 the other night. Yeah. But I think they get things together, and by the time Bama gets to town, I think Texas A&M is going to give them all they can handle, and I think A&M is going to be in that mix come to Tiger Stadium for the last game of the year. LSU is going to pay them back. Got to have that game circled, and that's where I think you're going to get the mix of who from the SEC goes in, what, when, and where. You may have 2 SEC teams in the game.
And I want to challenge the ISG Nation. So here's what you can do. If you want to play along with the Italian Sports Guys, just in the comments to this video on our Facebook page, just go ahead and put in, give me your 4 playoff teams, your 2 finalists, and give me a winner. And whoever...
Final score?
I don't know about the final score. We'll get as long as you get the team. So if you get the teams, again, 4 teams into the playoffs.
Craig's going to buy you a new car.
2 finalists, and then the winner... Whoever gets the best picks out of that will get some wonderful prizes from our State Farm sponsored Brian Scheck-Snyder.
There you go. Okay. I was kidding about the card. Disclaimer. He's not going to give you.
And one last shout out. We wanted to talk a little bit about our other local state teams. We didn't talk about in the previous segment, LSU, but SLU and Tulane, pretty impressive wins. Nickel State with high hopes had beaten a team, division of FBS school last year in Kansas, but really struggled on the road to Kansas State last week.
Yeah, got waxed by Kansas State Manhattan. Kansas State's coach is the guy that they coached North Dakota to all those national FCS title games, and tremendous coach, has his own system and he hit the ground running in Manhattan, Kansas, and he had a great recruiting class coming in kind of late, and so this guy's got it together, and they really put it on Nickel State as expected. It's a money game for the Colonels. Yeah. But people had higher hopes because last year they went into Lawrence and beat the Jayhawks. So as far as Southeastern goes, huge win for Frank Selfo and his Lions. Yeah. Lost their starting quarterback, Virgil Chasen, during the game. Cole Kelly, you guys might remember him. He's a Turlings Catholic kid. Had started some games from Arkansas a couple years ago. Big 6'7" guy. Came off the bench and let him right down the field. Didn't miss a beat. And they handily beat the 6th-ranked team in the FCS polls, Jacksonville State. Beat them handily in Hammond, USA. So there. And then, of course, Tulane. Boy, they really lit it up. They looked good.
Yeah,
exciting
atmosphere. This quarterback, really multi-dimensional, looked good on both running and throwing the football.
Offensive coordinator Hall. The second long ball Hall, Tulane's had.
Yeah, that's right.
Nicky long ball Hall, and then Willie long ball Hall.
But really impressive the way they look. And a lot of excitement around this program, justifiably so. I mean, you look back to last year. What a gutsy call when they had a 2-point conversion late to win that game, make them bowl eligible. That really carried so much momentum into this season. So feel good for those guys.
And look at what they're doing recruiting. You're starting to see players whose names you recognize from their high school performances here commit to the wave early.
That's right.
Not because it's the best offer they got at the end.
Yeah,
committing to them early. Also, I want to talk about the UL Raging Cajuns.
Yeah.
They lost to Mississippi State, but were in it till the very end. Yeah. And you sent me the article, actually, last night. It should be on The Advocate by now, on their director of football operations, Troy Wingard. That's right. And I've known Troy since I was a little kid. We played playground ball together. We were high school teammates, graduated together. He was a heck of an offensive lineman, went on to USL, which it was called back then, and started, and then became a graduate assistant. Cut to the chase. He's been with that program through 5 different coaches over 23 years in Lafayette's home. He and his wife, Sidra, raising their kids there. Great people. So congratulations to a career that's not close to being over, but fulfilling so far for Troy.
Yeah, I had a chance to attend that game, and again, made a good account of themselves against an SEC team, losing by 10 points. They got behind big, but made a nice comeback late to make it competitive. Had some fun with Catholic League guys on the roster, too. We saw... You got Chandler Fields, who played quarterback for Rummel as a backup for UL. You got Aaron Brule from Mississippi State, linebacker, who played for Rummel as well. And also Troy Regis, we mentioned from Shaw, really Regis, a beast of a guy, scored a touchdown in that game, ran for, I believe, 1,100 yards last year. So nice little compliment there.
I don't know what his 40 time is, but if his speed's enough, he's got the size to play in the league. At least get a shot.
Yeah, he's got those thighs like tree trunks.
Archbishop Shaw Eagle right there. So.
That's right. All right, folks, that about wraps it up. Be an exciting weekend again for the Tiger. A lot of action this weekend. The Tigers Saturday night for a big game, marquee game. It's going to be a college game day, as you mentioned.
Absolutely, in Austin.
And the Saints on the national spotlight as well on Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football in the Dome.
Hoping to start things off on the right foot. We are
the Italian Sports Guys.
Bada-Boom.
Bada-Bing.